All right, everyone. Welcome back to the No Cap Zone featured with Students for Equity. Now, listen, the students are busy. They are major busy. A lot of them have robotic competitions and projects this week. And so we have a special edition of the No Cap Zone on today with a special guest, Black male educator, in celebration of the Black male convening in Philadelphia this week, sponsored by no other than the amazing Sharif El Mekki. Shout out to Brother El Mekki and the work that he is doing. So, on behalf of Students for Equity and the No Cap Zone, we want to invite you into this conversation about how we have to speak up for Black kids. And so we'll be addressing that again on the spectrum of Black male educators and the impactful work that is being done in our schools. Now, with that being said, of course, we want you to go to educationalentities.com to make sure that you are connecting to this conversation and, of course, sharing this information with other people. Now, I want to go straight into the NZC news so that we can get straight into the conversation. So, here is the news for today. This month's highlight is National Family Engagement Month. And I have to ask this question: what are your schools doing for Family Engagement Month? Big question. This is one of my favorite times of year, especially in schools, because it means a lot of great things are happening, but it also means that there's food. And so food brings about great conversations and just great times with people. And so, again, what are your schools doing for Family Engagement Month? Please let us know. But also check out the call to action. There's a major call to action that is included in this month's edition of the Educator's Voice blog. So go to the educatorsvoice.com to see what the call to action is for family engagement and join in the conversation. Now, also, there are runoff elections across the nation. And so I'm urging everyone to make sure that your families still come out to vote. I'm definitely supporting the National Parents Union Every Family Votes campaign. Okay, so go to the nationalparentsunion.org to get connected to that conversation and also the movement that we're building for families to get out, to get engaged, and to vote. Now, there are the no cap zones top five. The no cap zones top five. We're going to go in a backwards order here. And we're going to start at number five. For number five, the students have down Donald Trump. Of course, if you haven't heard, the announcement is already out that Donald Trump is seeking to run for president again. And it's just interesting times again. I know that there are a lot of different perspectives around that. Of course, we may get into some of that with our special guest for today. However, coming in at number five was Donald Trump. Number four, 2023. The students are thinking ahead. Some of them are getting ready to graduate from high school. Some of them just entering high school and middle school. And so they're excited about their journeys and finishing out the school year and what's next. So ask yourself, how am I getting ready for 2023? Coming in at number three are Grammy nominations. Now, not a Beehive person, right? However, I do know that Beyonce has been nominated for some major awards. She has already broken some records again. And so I'm super excited about that. Of course, there are many others who are nominated. Shout out to all nominees, those who are local, near, and far. Also, we're going to keep going with the top five. Coming in at number two, I want to say that this is Kanye West. Controversial. That's all I'm going to say. Controversial, but there are some good points there. You got to study and really research for yourself what's happening and what's going on. But we're going to go right to number one, which is Black Panther. If you have not seen the movie, I'm urging you to get connected. Check it out. I have comic books. I collect comic books. I've read the comic books, but I also am very excited about the movie. So that's all the news. That's enough talking from myself. We're going to go ahead and get ready to bring on our special guest, Jamial Black, who is a youth advocate and a Black male educator. Episode 4 will be again highlighting the upcoming Black male educators convening that is happening this week. We're going to go ahead and bring on our guest at this time and allow him to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, work that you're doing as an educator, and also a youth advocate. Brother Jamial is no stranger to the Educational Entities family, but we're good to have him on for this segment, elevating the voices of Black male educators who are doing the work for our kids. Jamial, it's on you.
And good afternoon, everyone. As Brother Jason said, I'm Jamal Black, and I'm an educator, and more so an advocate. Like so much more than often, like we are often just lost, and we don't know, which direction we should be going in. And I feel like I'm always answering those calls, and I'm available for the conversation. And at this, journey in my life, from the journey from the classroom to the advocacy, I feel like that the time is more pressing now than ever for us to use our voice for power and to let everyone know the things that they should know instead of just following social media and liking a post or reposting it without understanding the content. We actually need to stand up and utilize our voices. Located here in North Carolina, just trying to make a difference and answer the call. You know,
All right, brother Jamal, that's awesome. So listen, we know that the work of Black male educators is super important, especially around the work that we're doing with Black boys. Now, I want to go here, definitely not to spoil the movie Black Panther, of course, right? If you haven't again seen the movie Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, please make sure that you go and check that out. But I do want to um, kind of use the movie to address this. We've kind of seen this in voting conversations. The Woman King, starring Viola Davis, which was also a super dope movie. If you have not seen it, definitely check it out. Uh, but that movie, and now also Black Panther again, has resurfaced this conversation around the impact that Black women being elevated in these, let's say, lead or in quotation marks, alpha positions that you know some feel is demasculizing um, Black men. And so as a Black male educator, a youth advocate, someone who works with Black and brown youth, and also is a Black male, right? uh, Give us your perspective of this conversation.
there are so many directions that we can go with this conversation. The one that stands out the most is just understanding my walk with life and understanding where I came from. My grandmother, Shirley Rose Allen, she raised 8 girls all by herself. So my entire life, I know nothing but powerful women. I know nothing less. And the narrative has always shifted, and I'm not sure where it kind of got diverged in any sense that the woman, black woman, the black powerful woman became obsolete because if you remember any story, any folklore that you can think of or whatever, there was always a powerful woman behind every strong so-called man, But you have to consider in those scenarios, the man was always off, taking care of things, but who was actually holding down the fort? Who was actually protecting the kingdom and keeping that kingdom up? So that kind of piggybacks onto the, new movie that everyone should go see. And I'm not, endorsed by this, but I, am endorsing this film because it's everything and more. And for those critics who are saying anything that's, anything less, feel like they're just they're misunderstanding the whole concept and they're not available for the conversation. They hear it, but they're not there.
Okay, I feel you on that. Now, I do want to ask you this: do you feel there is some truth to the conversation around uh, Black men who feel intimidated, in a sense, by Black women being cast as serving in, let's say, perhaps traditional roles that men have served in? Do you see maybe a possible um, bridge as to why that may be happening, or some understanding as to why they may feel that way?
I could understand how that could be like some type of, bridge or whatever, but coming from my background and knowing nothing but a powerful woman, I couldn't understand or see anything less. So if you were to tell me that the situation will play out much more differently if you change the figure from like a male to a female, it really wouldn't make sense to me because I know nothing less. Not saying that I didn't have a lot of positive male influences around me. It's just I just know that the matriarchs of the family were the backbone, if anything, the glue that held everything together.
Here's my thoughts. I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in, right? I think that uh, the films are needed. I think there's space for everyone, and I just really feel as if Black people, especially from the atrocities that our ancestors lived through and survived from, that we should be in a space where anyone within our community that is advancing should be celebrated, and it should be embraced. And I think that we really struggle with that. So I'm not going to belabor the time on that. Let's go to the next aspect. I know that you are um, really into this area and realm of advocacy. And so I want to ask you this question. How do you see the book bans and the current CRT movement impacting Black boys specifically, as a lot of the literature that is written by younger authors, comic books, etc., are being banned and removed? So, what are your thoughts on how that can impact young Black and brown boys in public schools?
I mean, the proof is basically in the pudding. I mean, if you're gonna eliminate and like restrict access to that, you gotta understand. You gotta go back to the I guess the beginning of understanding like from what happened from Brown versus Boyd, or even like go back a little further than that when it was forbidden that we were able to read and so forth. But when I think about that conversation, it goes back to the original thought that we were discussing from the beginning about the woman figure being a powerful leader. All I've known growing up was that there was an individual that always raised a family to be, strong and so forth. And, they taught these other individuals to read and so forth. So it's like it all ties into that. So yes, I, I really can't, I really can't go any further. It's just,
No, that
it's just
was,
stating
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
obvious.
No, just
It's just stating the obvious. And I'm just
your
agreeing because
perspective.
it's like
That was a
I feel
good sum.
I feel like I have to defend and talk about the subject matter so much as if it becomes
Wow.
taboo or whatever. But it's just like why does that become an uncomfortable conversation for most people? I don't know.
That is a good point, though. As people, especially in these spaces, have these conversations so much. It is kind of like, dang, why are we still having this conversation, and people are really still not even involved in the conversation? Because everyone's perspective is never always at the table. Now, I do want to ask you this, especially with being a youth advocate and your work in that space. If you had a choice, let's just throw this out here, right? If you had a choice, would you do year-round school, or would you do longer school days? You're gonna have to tell us why too, but just choose one first.
I would prefer to say year-round schools, just because I feel like we're already in that groove of things, and by me living in North Carolina, we have that inclement weather during that weird period between October and maybe April, where it could potentially snow the whole time or not, or just be cold and so forth or whatever. So we're out of school more than we are in school. But also living on the West Coast, I see how during holiday times that they have specified holidays for certain like situations, and it accommodates everyone because a lot of like let's say the Hispanic culture, they go back to their own country during Christmas, and they know that they're not going to be present in school, so they adjust the calendar to that. And I love that aspect of like them meeting, the families where, they should be and so forth. But year round all the way, extended days, there's already not enough days in the out, and there's not enough hours in the days for me to even like, think straight. So I can't even fathom like just having this new generation of kids sit through that much longer than we had to. Maybe it would have worked with us,
Yeah.
because we're conditioned a little different. But this new age, no, no, sir.
That's a major point. I mean, imagine sitting at a screen, even if you're in class, like having to use a tablet or having to, stare in the front of the room to see what's, being projected. Like 8 or 9 hours out of the day. Like that's already crazy. That's a whole nother conversation though around reimagining schools and how that would look. But I do want to also ask you this: having studied abroad before and lived out of the country, uh, what are your thoughts around inner city, not even inner city, but children, period, in our public school system being able to um, be exposed to different cultures. One of the reason why I'm asking this question is one of the student survey areas came back that there were high percentages of students, at least over 58% of the students in the metro area school districts that have not been out of the city area or the area where they live. And so talk to us a little bit about the impact of living abroad and maybe just living away or outside of your immediate community.
Okay, I don't want to sound unpatriotic when I say this, but the American school system sucks. It is horrible compared to other systems, especially like the European system. More specifically speaking, in Spain, it just seems that it's just more well put together and it's for the families. It's not for a political gain. It's not for a motive or anything. It's to do what you're supposed to do. I feel like we're limited to our abilities over here, hence the whole argument around CRT and so forth and things of that nature. It's like, why do we have to have a discussion about what's not supposed to be taught? And me actually learning my Hispanic studies aspect of my undergraduate studies kind of opened my eyes up to how politics and history is relayed in, I guess, a scholarly sense. We get one side of the story over here, and that's that. But from their perspective, like we tapped on untouched like subjects that you wouldn't think that you could actually get into without having any formal training and so forth. So I would say that the drive and the push to be global world class citizens is more so there present than it is here. And it's
Wow.
all because I feel like it translates to like nobody wants anybody to be in a position higher. Like we have to constantly be in competition with one another as if we're threats to each other and it's going to make a difference tomorrow than it is today.
Okay, hey man, listen, this experience is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Listen, if you are viewing live, of course, please share this out with at least 5 people. Comment, let us know what you think about this conversation. Also, make sure you subscribe to educationalentities.com to make sure you're connected to these conversations. Brother Jamal, these are some dope responses and deep in a lot of regards, especially around your experience. So I appreciate that. Let's go down to the political lane. We got about 10 minutes left, but we do have some time here. More younger Black men, specifically your demographic, your generation, voted progressive, independent. Um, there were some who voted Republican, some who voted Democrat. Very interesting, dynamic, but very progressive ideas around how things should be changed. What does your demographic want to see politically? And then I have some follow-up questions to that, but what are some things that you all want to see politically?
Personally speaking, from a political scientist perspective, because it was my original forte. I love to see that everybody has developed an opinion for their own self. We grow up in families and we're used to just doing things because that's the way things are. with this new wave of individuals and this new generation of like them being prone to technology, I feel like they have more access to things. So to kind of piggyback off that book conversation, they can ban all the books that they want, but they can't hide the content. We're going to always find the truth in something, whether it's in a physical form, a digital form, or by word of mouth. The village will still live on, and I'm going to be one of those individuals that ensure that. And I think that's really all I can
Yeah,
speak
no,
on.
that's I like that. Now let me ask this. President Trump has announced that he's running again. And people are I can see the road that we're getting ready to go back down now. Do you feel like it's impactful the tactics that are being used politically, which have we've seen it over decades? The campaign smears and how it can be destructive to families and communities, and at the end of the day, how Black people still haven't had reparations. I believe that the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill passed, but what impact does that have on what a lot of people would say is a policing state? So, what are your thoughts on that in regards to the performance of the Democrats? What are the Republicans actually offering? I'm gonna break that up, but let us know, like, what are your thoughts on how the parties are actually performing for Black people and Black communities?
First, I would like to say that I feel like this whole attempt is to distract and divide, which is, they've been our ulterior motive the entire time. And they're good for that because there's so much going on. It's going to blindside us from the issues that we need to actually focus on, like those runoffs that are continuously happening or the recounts that could potentially happen because of, any inconsistencies that may have happened through the election process. Um, Most important, I think it's a whole joke. It really, it just makes a mockery of what the Republic is supposed to stand for. And I can
Mm,
only just think of like, being in kindergarten and, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and not understanding what it means. And then in my adult life, hearing it being recited. Notice I say hearing it being recited and understanding, its intent. And it's like you really, push that agenda and you force me to think that way and made me develop these opinions about these other people without, me having a genuine moral compass open to accepting of, differences of people.
wow, that's that's a really good perspective. I want to ask you a couple of questions, but I do want to go here. Um, when we look at social studies data across public school districts and the numbers of Black male educators that are in classrooms that are teaching history, one of our um, podcasts within educational entities that way, um, the host is a history teacher who is now doing equity work within the school system to help drive uh, that vision for our children. I want to ask you this question in regards to the disparities that Black boys are facing in public schools and policies that are policing them. What are some of the, let's say, if you could, from your experience being in the school and being a youth advocate, what do you think are the two most critical areas of improvement from the Black student perspective?
Understanding their political stance and their abilities and the sense that, you know, there's a entire document that is supposed to be, you available for us to function and mobilize like, citizens and so forth. But the thing is they restrict that. They don't allow access to that. I don't really recall too many lessons on the Constitution in its entirety, like it was when we were in school. I don't hear any conversations about that. I don't know, much of any conversation going on about like in the event that you're pulled over or you're approached by law enforcement, how to handle that situation. I do recall being a behavior teacher at a local school and having this conversation with our behavior students because for one, they're going to be targeted more than
Mm,
the traditional student will be, but they also need to understand that their voice has power, whether people help them to understand that or realize that, you still have power in your voice, whether you can hear it or not, or whether you think it can be heard.
Wow. You said that so matter of fact that um, this is evident that this happens to black boys, and then you said traditional students. What are we missing? Because do do educators already have this notion in their mind that the system is going to do this? Are they seeing this in real time? Are they silenced from being able to speak out against these things? Like, what are your experience with having the notion that it's almost, it gave the sentiment that it's almost understood that this is the way things work. This is how black boys or children of color are supposed to be treated, as opposed to traditional students.
I think that all coincides with the consciousness of the school coach and the consciousness of the school and the culture of the school.
Mm, okay.
Depending on how the administration or that leadership team is leading that particular institution, it will depict a bigger picture to kind of reveal like the things that you won't see, that you won't hear.
Mm, okay. I know you as a teacher, I know you're saying a lot without saying it directly, so I get it. So teachers, when you view this, know that there are resources for you to be able to definitely support the students. But also, let's be realistic and address the elephant in the room, which is racism. And so, of course, these are real things. Our children are experiencing these things. If you were reading in between the lines of what Brother Jamal was just stating, and so let's make sure that we're showing up. And also, what I did hear is that the younger generation of teachers are really political. And I think that social justice is important to them. So, making sure that families are involved, communities are engaged, those are things that they want to see in schools. And also making sure that public school districts are declaring that they are anti racist. And that's important for them to state that. So, that's the call to action to do for Family Engagement Month. We are at the end of our time, but brother, I gotta ask this question, man.
Yes, sir.
The students gonna be all over this. If Ryan Coogler were to do another Black Panther, what villain would you like to see introduced? And maybe not just the villain, but some other characters that you
Black
may want to
Lightning.
see.
Black Lightning.
Black Lightning. Okay, Black Lightning fans, Black Twitter, Black people. Let's go ahead and put that out there. Let's make that happen. Talk that up. Um, I would love to see that, and I also would love to see, um, maybe in let's say 2024, um, the next Black Panther, maybe with a story connecting to Storm, because if I believe it or not, I believe that Storm is from Wakanda. So I would love to see how that comes into play. I would love to see that because that could possibly bring the X-Men back. But we'll see. Brother Jamal, man, thank you for this conversation, elevating the voices of why we must speak up for Black kids, some of the experiences of Black students and Black boys in public schools, and also your perspective of what Black males in your generation are wanting to see politically and also in our schools, which is urgently important to making sure that we're getting students what they need. Again, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the No Cap Zone. We are signing out for the evening, but listen, make sure you stay connected to educational entities. Go to the website, subscribe, get ready for the next I Win morning show episode coming up on Monday at 7:15 a.m. You don't want to miss it. Brother Jamal will be back in the educational or the EE verse very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And also, guys, if you are not aware, there is the BMEC convening this week in Philadelphia, bringing together Black male educators from all over the world, which is going to be super exciting. Jamal and I will be presenting there to continue this conversation around elevating our voices for speaking up for Black kids in public schools. So, again, everyone, thank you for tuning in to this conversation, and we are out, y'all. Again, peace. Jamal, it's been good,
Thank you for
man.
having me. Thank you for
Yes,
having me,
you'll
man.
be back. Listen, we'll have you back soon. Peace, y'all. Thank you for tuning in.
Take care. No.
All right, man. This is awesome. Next episode coming up with Jamal.